Hello and welcome to this program of School of Law. Today I will talk about uh, our program that is Certificate in International Humanitarian Law. Today I will brief about this program. It's a month of July and admissions are on. So every time in January and July, we uh, we sorry in every July and January we present some programs on in which we introduce about the programs. So today I will talk about the Certificate in International Humanitarian Law. This program is offered by School of Law, and it is a 6-month duration program, and maximum duration is 2 years. This program was developed in collaboration with the International Committee of Red Cross. In this program, we have covered the basic concepts of international humanitarian law, and the focus of the program is mainly on the issues of South Asia. So there is a separate units on every South Asian country. So the objectives of this program is to develop knowledge and skill in the area of international humanitarian law, provide specialist understanding on the contemporary issues in international humanitarian law in South Asia. So as I mentioned, that the program is focused on South Asia. What are the armed conflicts which are taking place in South Asia, and how the principles of international humanitarian law is being applied? What is the position of ratification of various conventions and protocols of the Geneva Convention of 1949, 4 Geneva Conventions and additional protocols. We have tried to cover these things in this. So first, before coming to another slide, I would like to briefly tell you about what is international humanitarian law. So the students should know international humanitarian law is a branch of international law which contains a set of rules which seek for humanitarian reasons to limit the effects of armed conflicts. It protects persons who are not or are no longer participating in the hostilities, and it restricts the means and methods of warfare. In simple terms, we can say that international humanitarian law, firstly, it is a branch of international law. International law covers various issues: international human rights law, international law, and the Charter of United Nations, various treaties and conventions, on various areas. So international humanitarian law is one of the branch of international law, and it mainly limits the use of uh, armed forces or the use of weapons, and protects those who are not directly participating in the armed conflict. Uh, Ideally, the situation should be that the uh, disputes between states are settled amicably by peaceful means: mediation, conciliation, arbitration, or resorting to judicial means such as going to International Court of Justice, good offices. But experience has shown that there are situations where armed conflict takes place despite all the efforts. So when the armed conflict takes place between the two states or between two or more states, then it is then the humanitarian law come into action, and the purpose of humanitarian law is not to, I mean, it does not it does not prevents the armed conflict. It only regulates the conflict in such a manner that the minimum damage is done. For example, it limits the use of forces. That is to say, it provides in various provisions that forces cannot be used against the civilian, or the people who are, suppose somebody is a prisoner of war, or a person who supplies ration or medical aid to the armed forces. So force should not be used against them, or forces should not be used against the cultural properties, monuments, temples, educational institutions, marketplaces, hospitals, etc., because they are not directly participating in the war, and they have nothing to do with the armed conflict directly. So the purpose of international humanitarian law is to provide relief to those who are affected by armed conflicts, the sick and wounded soldiers. We have seen that in armed conflict, war-like situations or armed conflict, the Red Cross provides basic and necessities to the prisoners of war, because International Committee of Red Cross is considered to be a neutral body, a neutral agency. So generally, every country respect them, and if the aid or support is provided through them, it is considered that there will not be any security threat to the country, because International Committee of Red Cross or other organizations, NGOs who are working in the area have no axe to grind, or have no interest in the armed conflict. Similarly, international humanitarian law also limits the use of weapons, weapons of mass destruction, chemical weapons, biological weapons, gases, or nuclear weapons. These kinds of weapons are prohibited. It is another factor that in many cases international humanitarian law is violated by the warring parties. That is a different issue. But legally speaking, these types of weapons are prohibited. They cannot be used in the armed conflict. Another development in international humanitarian law, which we have seen recently or in 50 years or so, that international humanitarian laws is trying to regulate non-international armed conflicts also. Non-international armed conflicts are where organized rebellion group is fighting against the government, against the regular government. So in these types of situations also, 1977 in 1977 there were two protocols came into existence, and one of them was related to non-international armed conflict. But the problem is that states, it depends on the states. If the states declare any conflict as non-international conflict, international law can come into action only. And in most of the cases, states avoid treating their conflicts as non-international conflicts. They treat it as law and order problem or a public order problem. So this is a quite tricky area, and the efficacy of international humanitarian law is affected by these factors. There are certain principles such as proportionality, distinction, use of force in the proportion of the attack. So these are the areas which are covered by international law. So now we come to another point, that is instructional system, how the course is transacted in IGNOU. The program is offered in the open and distance, that is self-learning material, print material is provided, audio video material is also provided, and we conduct regular radio counseling and teleconferencing sessions. We are currently conducting teleconferencing session on this course. Self-learning material is student is designed in such a manner that students can understand it with not so much effort. So the language and the content, and the language and the presentation of content is in a simple manner. contact counseling sessions are so IGNOU has the system of teleconferencing radio. We have a dedicated channel, Gyanvani channel for radio, and Gyan Darshan channel for teleconferencing sessions. Now, the eligibility is 10+2, and anybody who has done 10+2 or bachelor preparatory program from IGNOU can enroll in the program. As I told you in the beginning, the duration of the program is 6 months, and the maximum duration to complete the program is 2 years. That is to say, if the student cannot complete it within 6 months due to various reasons, he may be busy, or he may not be able to clear any course, any paper. In any case, the student has the option to complete it within 2 years. So you can divide your studies. If you are working people and don't find time to study, you can give 1 or 2 paper in one go. Exams are held every 6 months in June and December. So you can divide your study accordingly. You can appear in 1 paper or 2 paper at a time. So this is the flexibility of IGNOU for all the programs. Now, with regard to methodology, 3 courses, that is BLE 35, 36 and 37. These are the courses, course codes of the programs. It follows the same evaluation pattern: 30% internal assessment and 70% term end exam. That means to say, we provide assignments to the students, and students have to do the assignments. Have to write the assignment questions and send it to your center, and they are evaluated, and 30% weightage is given to assignments, and at the end of the session you have to appear in the term end exam, which are held in June and December, and for that you have to fill up the examination form 2 or 3 months back online, and examinations are held in examination centers, and as your answer scripts are evaluated, and 70% weightage is given to term end examination. So 70-30, 30-70 pattern is followed. This is applicable in most of the courses of IGNOU. With regard to project BLEP 38, what we do is we provide some topics at the end of assignments, and the students have to write a project in about 2,000 words on any one of them and submit it to the project cell, and 100% weightage is given to that. It's a 100 marks paper, so based on the your performance, your it is evaluated and awards are given. Now, with regard to program detail, uh, there are 3 courses and 1 project. 3 courses. The first course is Understanding of International Humanitarian Law, and the first block talks about the definition of international law, definition of international humanitarian law, how it is applied, and its importance, its significance. So, as I told you, that international humanitarian law is a branch of international law. So, in one of the units, we have covered the definition of international law and the sources of international law, that is, treaties and conventions, customs, general principles of civilized nations, teachings of highly qualified publicists, etc. And the sources of international humanitarian law are mainly customs and various treaties, and the most important one among them is the 1949 Treaty Geneva Conventions, which was adopted after Second World War to minimize the hostilities of the to prevent the society from to save the world from another mass level destruction which has taken place in the Second World War. So, 4 Geneva Conventions. One convention is related to law, land warfare. Another one is related to sea warfare, war in the sea. Another convention is related to the prisoners of war, rights of prisoners of war, and another convention deals with the civilian population, rights of the civilian populations during armed conflict. And thereafter, 2 protocols were adopted in 1977, and another protocol was adopted in 2005, which was related to recognition of another system, that is res gestal. So, and there are Hague Conventions also, 1899 and 1907, and there are other treaties and conventions which deal with international humanitarian law. Similarly, Block 2 talks what are the basic concepts of IHL. So, it talks about proportionality, distinction, etc. Block 3 talks about the basic rules of protection of IHL. We have mainly covered the Geneva Conventions in this block, 4 Geneva Conventions and additional protocols. Block 4 talks about the different categories of protected persons, cultural property, public places, hospitals, etc., prisoners of war, etc. Block 5 talks about the relationship of international law with other institutions, with other branches of law, such as human rights, refugee law, etc. So, now with regard to course 2, that is barely 36, it talk about the application of IHL, and block 1 talks about the who may be who may apply international humanitarian law. So in, internationally, it is United Nations Security Council, International Court of Justice, United Nations peacekeeping force, which have played an important role on the conflict prevention. So block 2, how it is, how IHL is applied, and block 3 talks about how IHL is applied at the international level. So block 2 talks about the application of IHL at the national level, military advisory committee, military code of conduct. In India, we have a Geneva Convention Act of 1960, which seeks to implement the 4 Geneva Conventions of 1949 in India. It's an enabling legislation for applying the Geneva Conventions in India. So these are the block 4 talks about the and block 3 talks about the application of IHL by international bodies, United Nations, International Court of Justice, which is also a part of United Nations, United Peacekeeping Force, NGOs, media. So block 4, what is the role of International Committee of Red Cross? So International Committee of Red Cross, as we know, has a very important role to play. It has a watchdog function, guardian angel function, monitoring function, and its main duty is to implement or apply the international law in the armed conflict, as well as it promotes the ratification and adoption of international instruments on international humanitarian law. And it also facilitates, or in collaboration with academic institutions, it also trains people on international law. It trains academia, students, military people, etc. Block 5, what is the role of other institutions, educational institutions, media, etc. So course 3 is basically deals with the international application of IHL in the South Asian context. So block 1 talks about why IHL relevant to South Asia. In this block, we have covered the historical perspective also, IHL humanitarian law principles in ancient India, in Buddhist tradition, in Hindu tradition, in Christian traditions, Islamic traditions, etc. And why it is relevant to study international humanitarian law. So its importance cannot be doubted, because armed conflicts are taking place everywhere, and people should be aware about the rights available to various groups, groups, as well as the rights available to citizen in general, public in general. Block 2, major conflicts in South Asia. Some of the countries we have covered: Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Maldives. So in these 2 blocks, block 2 and 3, we have covered the South Asian countries. Block uh, uh, Block 4 talks what are the current issues of South Asia, application of IHL in South Asia, in which we have covered the problem faced by women, refugees, internally displaced people. Internally displaced people are those people who flee from one part of the country to another part due to the threat of their life, their, also in simple terms, due to the fear of persecution due to their political views, their political ideology, etc., etc., their religious beliefs, etc. So, refugees are people who come from another country, and internally displaced people are the people who come from the same country from different part of the country. So, child soldier, issue of child soldier is also covered. How the children are being used, what are the factors, why the children are used in armed conflict, and what are the trauma they are facing, what are the effect of war or armed conflict on children. We have seen that the kind of trauma which they face, which continues with them for a long time. People who have seen so much violence in their childhood, it affects their psyche so much. And needless to mention that their education, their social life, their family life is affected in war-torn areas. So, in there we have covered the issues in South. Block 5, ameliorative mechanism. What are the mechanism available at national and international level? And we have also covered the position of Geneva Conventions in South Asia. As far as India is concerned, India has ratified the Geneva Conventions, but optional protocols, we have some reservations. We have not ratified, especially the Protocol 2, which talks about the non-international armed conflict. In another places, we have covered, especially in course 2, we have covered the ad hoc tribunals, which have helped in developing the principles of international humanitarian law, Nuremberg Tribunal, Tokyo tribunals, and Rwanda, various tribunals, ad hoc tribunals, fact-finding missions, hybrid courts, which are established in the places where which are going through a kind of transitional phase where there is a kind of uncertainty, and the occupying power has occupied the place, but the laws and law of the earlier states are in force. So we have covered those military law advisors, military code of conduct, and so now with regard to BLAP 38, students have to write a project on any one of the topics which are given at the end of assignments, and the project should be typed, bound, and student has to submit it to the project cell. In project, you have to cover the first you have to introduce the topic which you want to cover, and then rationale of the topic, methodology, and then you have to divide the rest of the your material into chapters and sub-chapters, and last chapter is conclusion and suggestions. So today we have introduced to you about the certificate in international humanitarian law program, which is offered by a School of Law, and we welcome you to this program, and thank you very much.